Hello, everyone. Welcome and good afternoon to another session. Good afternoon to all and welcome to another session of the Smartport Challenge 2020 Roadshow. I see that people are streaming in. We'll just wait perhaps for another minute. Some of them are probably watching this on Facebook as well. I see a lot of familiar names as well. Someone saying hi. Hi, Bilok. All right, I think we'll just start. Anyway, the recording is available at the end of the event. We'll also be posting this video on Facebook after the event. So feel free to share and to catch up on the bits that you missed out in case you came in a little bit late. Okay, so today is a little bit special. If you joined us last week, today's format is slightly different. So we will have our first session at 4 p.m. and it's with Uniteam Marine on interactive and engaging training through technology. And the second session will start at 4:30 p.m. and it's with ONE and SCS on virtual walkthrough for vessels, and that's 4:30 p.m. Okay, so you can probably already see that Paul's with me online right now. Paul, say hi. He's
Hello.
saying hi from Myanmar.
Hello, Singapore. It's a pleasure to be here, Ning. Thank you very much.
Thank you for spending time too. Now, Paul is from Uniteam Marine and he is the Managing Director for training. I'll let Paul introduce himself a little bit more. What are some of the interesting bits that he's been up to recently, as well as perhaps let us know what Uniteam Marine is, what kind of business Uniteam Marine is in. I'm sure many of our audiences here are actually interested about that as well.
Thank you, Ning. Indeed, a pleasure to be here, and greetings from rainy Myanmar. I guess I missed the last plane out to Singapore, so I've been holed up here for 4 months now, but I hope to come back soon. Uniteam Marine is what we call a ship management company. So that means we run other people's ships on their behalf. That means crewing, it means technical management, it means procurement, insurance, and so forth. Part of that job is indeed looking after the seafarers, and indeed training is a huge component of that. For that purpose, we have a big training center in Myanmar and other places as well. And we try to come up with better solutions to train our workforce. And obviously with COVID happening, this initiative is accelerating further. So we're looking for more and more digital solutions that can be delivered through some distance, where indeed traditional classroom training is less interesting to us. We're looking for more digital solutions to convey the message that we want to convey to our seafarers.
Right, and you're definitely the guy to talk all about it because you're the Managing Director for training, right?
Thank you very much. Yes, in fact, we have a bit of a track record of the beaten track when it comes to training. Uniteam Marine was the first in the world that brought a serious computer game to the market for our seafarers. We have done initiatives in augmented reality, virtual reality. We have a brand new learning management system, and we have a digital competency assurance platform. So we are not strangers to innovation, and that's why I'm so excited to be here today, because indeed it's tapping into the rich vein of innovation that runs deep in Singapore, and I really look forward to taking this project further with hopefully some of you.
Right, now if that isn't cute enough, I think the audience would know by now that today we're focusing on the topic of training, specifically for crew
Yes.
seafarers, right? All right, so before I go further deeper with my first question, I would like to let our audience know that if you have any questions that you'd like to raise at any point in time, you can type it out in the question function at, you just look at the bottom of the screen. That's where you find the Q&A button. So if any questions, you can just post your questions there. All right, and then I'll try to have it answered. If we can't, then we can also answer it after the event. I will have to trouble Paul to write out his responses, and then we'll post it somewhere on Facebook, on LinkedIn, on a post-event coverage.
And I promise a reply within 6 days, or you get a free pizza. So there you go.
Thank you. All right, so our first question is, what kind of work do the crew members typically do on board vessels that actually require training?
Right. I would say there's two broad categories. There's a category what we call watchkeeping. That is essentially making sure that the ship runs. That is on a normal sea voyage or indeed in port. There are certain duties that officers and crew have during those periods that are pretty structured. So there are strong management systems. There's a system of captain's orders, which prescribe how the seafarer should conduct their watch duties. And this is extremely important. Secondly, there's a category of more, I would say, irregular work, like maintenance. You're going to paint the ship from time to time. You're going to do maintenance on the main engine. And these are less frequent, but nevertheless, activities that need to take place. So those are the two broad categories of what people do on board. Watchkeeping duties and indeed maintenance activities of a more irregular nature.
Right, and how complex are these jobs?
Obviously, I have to be careful with what I say, because if I say they're not complex, I have a lot of angry seafarers on the phone. But I would say these jobs are pretty complex, but they are more difficult because each and every ship owner will have different requirements, how they want the job done. So that means that the ship crew is being overloaded with more and more legislation. You can't do this, you can't do that, you can't dump your ballast here, you have to look after this whilst you are in Singapore port. And it becomes a bit of an overload for especially the watchkeeping officers, where more and more of these requirements come in, made more difficult by the different requirements from each of the ship owner, how they want this particular job done. So that is the essence of the training tool that we seek. Like, how can we train officers in particular to make sure to take the right decision at the right timing in the right sequence? That is essentially what we're trying to do with our problem statement.
And I guess, I don't know, I'm asking, so for crews, right, do they get trained for just one particular vessel or multiple kinds?
Right. The Seafarer training system is such that once you indeed achieve your certificate of competence, that means you're qualified for a particular rank, for a particular ship of a particular size. That means that indeed Seafarer training is generic in nature. That means that all the special requirements from ship owners, they have to be trained by training center like ourselves. So to give you a simple example, an incident reporting procedure will look like X or for this particular owner, and it will look like Y on another particular ship owner. Now, to train these things, especially when you start moving around people from one type of ship to another type of ship, how do you train these people? How do you keep up with that now? And that is the struggle we're dealing with at the moment. So we're looking for indeed that tool that will playfully teach people how to make the right decisions, the right sequence of events, and to do that timely now. And that is what we're looking for.
All right. So training for seafarers are really ongoing, and it's been going on for a long time.
Yes.
So how are they trained in the past, and how are they trained currently?
Right. The problem statement that I describe, indeed, we would simulate that in a simulator, in a bridge simulator, for example, whereby we would bring a number of people together and we would run a particular scenario in a virtual bridge environment. That is effective, but it's also costly because a bridge simulator, the running hours are expensive. I would need to have instructors there to supervise and run the exercises. And also, quite frankly, it's an inefficient way of training people, because you would need to, you could only do, let's say, 4 people per day in training in such an environment. So the tool that we look for would be a more bulk delivery tool, whereby we could reach many people at the same time, and people would get indeed joy out of this exercise, because the fun part is extremely important for us.
So when you mentioned simulators, it reminds me of how pilots are being trained in
Absolutely
simulators.
Right. Absolutely right. So the comparison with the airline industry is a correct one. indeed, you would train a pilot and a captain, co-pilot and a captain. You would train them as a team in landing procedures, in takeoff procedures, and so forth. It's not very different for the shipping industry, where you would have bridge team courses, whereby you put a captain or a watchkeeping officer with a helmsman and a pilot, and you would run particular scenarios on an approach to a port, or indeed an anchoring exercise, or anything else. So indeed, simulators are the go-to solution at the moment, but COVID makes it more difficult. You want to create some distance. You do not necessarily want to bring people together to do these exercises. So we're looking for a different solution, a more cost-effective solution, a customizable solution, because as I mentioned earlier, each ship owner will have their own procedures. So that means I want to be able to train with this tool seafarers from company X, but also seafarers from company Y, by making changes to the tool that we hope to develop.
Right, you mentioned increasing capacity. So how many people do you reckon should be trained in one sitting?
Right. That really depends on the tool in question. For example, if you would look at a serious gaming solution, you could there literally is no more limit to what you can achieve, because it's an online game, for example, that you could develop, and it's no longer restricted by any capacity, because anybody who could log in could literally learn how to do these procedures, how to take these actions that seafarers face whilst working on board a ship.
Right. I guess right now, maybe it's also an opportunity for me to ask this question because it came from the audience.
Okay.
Kapil is asking, whether you're looking for a web-based solution that can run a mobile laptop.
Right. Now, I'm a big fan of mobile solutions, because for me, the mobile phone is the vehicle for the seafarer. These days, they communicate with their parents, they communicate with their family, they communicate with, they learn, they socially interact. So the mobile phone-based solution would be the preferred solution from where we stand at the moment, without killing any other ideas out there, because maybe there are better ideas out there. But a mobile-based solution would be excellent.
But this also means that they no longer have to be retained in a training center, perhaps, right? They can even be trained at home. But
Correct.
would they be able to be trained while they're on their voyage? Sometimes there are downtime,
Sure.
I don't know.
Sure, but if you're looking at a mobile phone optimized solution, and you would just add an element of gamification, then it becomes really interesting, because that's where the fun part starts hitting, whereby you would create, for example, a global leaderboard and say, okay, you get gold coins, or you get points for the merits that you achieve whilst playing this particular training game. And seafarers would square off against each other, and they would get incentivized to go back and try a different approach, or perhaps a faster approach. So as I mentioned in the introduction, we are a big fan of gamification, and we believe it does wonders when it comes to retention and engagement of our students. So we would see, in the end, probably a gamified solution as probably the best approach to our particular problem statement.
Now, besides COVID-19 being one of the reasons, and one of the, it's really a pressure for people to move away from physical, training of some sort. Is there are there any other reasons why Uniteam's moving away from the more conventional type of training? Conventional, I guess it's like,
Yes.
Even using simulator is conventional because it's probably common these days.
Sure. I think what you see worldwide at the moment is a rush towards learning management systems. So a lot of training has moved to the cloud, to a digital environment, for good reasons. There are cost considerations, but indeed, COVID has accelerated that further by saying, okay, don't put people together in a classroom. Let them learn at their own time, their own pace, their own device, etc., etc. Now, that is a good thing. Learning management system is a good thing, but for us, to gamify a learning solution is even better, because it becomes attractive. It becomes fun for people to compete. It becomes fun for people to get a sense of achievement of, hey, I learned how to do this particular procedure by learning in a gamified way. So it's there are different. Each learning solution has its own benefits. I think COVID has, in general terms, has accelerated the end of classroom-based learning. I strongly believe in that. Yes.
Right, that's definitely true. But can you foresee any obstacle or challenge in implementing this kind of a new way of training? For example,
Right.
would authorities be able to accept this? How are they going to certify it?
Now, that is an excellent question. The solution that we are talking about is not interfering in any way with the formal training program that seafarers have to go through. So I'm not talking about replacing SCCW training or indeed the system of certificate of competency. So we're not talking about that. What we find in practice is it's hard to train a seafarer on specific systems that exist for different ship owners. That is the problem that we describe. So this system is not going to substitute the existing system of seafarer training with all its qualifications and all the certification. It is supplementing it. It is a kind way of learning what is specific for the ship you're going to work on.
So I suppose it's kind of like, instead of reading off a textbook, you're using something else to help you learn the content. But at the end of the day, you're still sitting for the exam. That will not be changed. Am I right?
Not necessarily. I mean, you're right that indeed we would tell a new guy coming to a ship, go to the captain's office and you'll find the manuals and read up on those, and we expect you to know what to do. Now, that is in practice, that hasn't worked very well, to be honest. So we would seek a different solution where indeed a mobile phone optimized game would be much better in doing that. I mentioned earlier retention and engagement. Now, if you compare the method of reading a book or an instruction manual compared to what a game can do, you'll see literally a difference of day and night in what both these methods can achieve. So exams, not so much a believer in exam, because having people play and having people achieve something in a virtual environment, competing against each other, these are things that work miracles as compared to formalized exams.
I have a question. So how are these seafarers certified? Like, okay, so I have earned my credits because I finished reading this manual?
Yes.
Or...
Sure.
Really? Is that how they do it?
Yes, because we would seek some back-end functionality of the solution, where indeed we can see who has done the unit, what scores did they achieve. So that kind of back-end functionality is important, so that we can track whether the person actually have completed the training tool. But it's not interfering with the formal system of Seafarer certification. It is supplementing it.
Okay. All right. We have a few questions that are in the Q&A. We answered one. Someone's asking, how do you train for maintenance work?
Sorry, how do we train for?
Maintenance work.
No. Maintenance is a tougher nut to crack, because indeed there's a lot more to it. It becomes equipment specific, where it's hard to find a common thread in maintenance activities. I can imagine the game talking about maintenance in broader terms, where you say, okay, before we do maintenance, there are a couple of typical steps that you need to take before maintenance. You need to consult your manuals. You need to check your computerized database, whether you have the requisite spare parts on board. You need to get approval from your captain or from your chief engineer to do the maintenance. So the solution that we seek is not necessarily this is a game where you learn how to maintain an MAN-BW engine, for example. That's not the purpose of this game. We're looking for broader routines that people do on board.
Right. Okay. Someone's also asking, what do you think have been the challenges to date in deploying the type of solution that you're looking for? Is it cost? Is it technology availability? Is it bandwidth requirements? I guess bandwidth if you're trying to have it done.
Yes.
While
Bandwidth is perhaps less of an issue. I mean, there are many technical solutions for offline gameplay. You can imagine a simple short handshake to synchronize your results with the cloud, so that's not a big issue. I know for a fact that Singapore has a rich ecosystem when it comes to game development, and I used them before, and it's amazing what creative and gameplay solutions are available in Singapore. So I don't expect a shortage of solutions there. So technology, there are no showstoppers. Bandwidth, there are no showstoppers. It's what I see in front of me, and obviously I've been giving this some thought, is a game whereby people learn about that particular regulatory procedural environment they're going to work on with their next ship or their next assignment, and do that in a fun way whereby they get incentivized to learn more and deeper and compete and so forth and so forth.
It's kind of like, you want it to be engaging because people need to learn by having fun, right? That's where it stays in the brain.
Yes, I'll let go of one particular idea if you can humor me. The older people in this audience may remember a particular game called Tetris, and maybe younger generation. I see a smile on your face, Ning. So
I used to play.
There you go. Tetris is an interesting example of gameplay because it forced you to combine shapes coming down from the top, combine them, whereby if you combine them correctly, you get a number of points. If you were really good at that, the blocks would come down faster and faster and faster until indeed you have your whole field full of colored blocks and it's game over for you. It's not too hard to imagine a Tetris-like solution for the problem statement that I just described, because indeed, seafarers, officers in particular, are faced with a particular situation, like, for example, the anchor is dragging. We are at anchor, I'm having anchor watch, and the anchor starts dragging. What are the steps I'm supposed to take as watchkeeping officer at that moment in time, and in what sequence do I have to take these steps? Now, you can imagine how that starts to shape up like a Tetris-like solution, whereby Seafarer gets presented with a problem, and I have to take my executive actions quickly in the right sequence. Now, there is a gameplay around that, and you can add bonus points to that if you do it correctly. And maybe if you do it correctly, you get one free superintendent call you can make, whereby you can get a tip from an AI that's hovering in the background and that will give you some advice. This is the kind of gameplay that is extremely exciting for people to play. It becomes addictive in a particular way, and that is the kind of thing we try to achieve with learning activities for our seafarers.
I'm curious, is it could one of the reasons be that the crew seafarers are getting younger and younger? I mean,
certainly, I can tell you that
want to attract people who are always on their phones and stuff.
No, that's definitely the case. I mentioned in the introduction that we have experience with launching and developing serious games. It's certainly the case that Gen Y, Gen Z, they respond better to this initiative. But even with our seafarers, the 50-plussers, even the 60-plussers, we find that provided we coach them into this, provided we do a little bit more, people respond very well to these kind of initiatives. So I think if you look at global statistics, I think the average age of serious gamers is over 40, between 40 and 45. So there's hope for us old timers, I suppose. I mean, we can still have a few tricks left up our sleeves, and we like to play games as well.
Right.
So yes.
Okay, so let's just move on a little bit further down. Let's say there is a startup that you pick to work with eventually at the end of Singapore Challenge. So we would like to know, what can this finalist, how would you be working with this finalist in a co-pilot or whatever stage?
It's very simple. If we just keep down the track of a gamified solution, we would look to this company, and obviously we would look for good ideas on gameplay, on design of the environment, the graphics. We would not expect the successful company to be expert in what we know, which is about procedural stuff when it comes to watchkeeping and responses and so forth. So we would do that part together. We would do it for them. So what people would get is indeed, okay, we're going to give you a list of 20 situations, and these are the responses that we expect to see to these situations in this particular sequence. Now, that is extremely important. Again, we don't expect Singapore software companies to be expert in shipping. So this is the input that we would provide to make this project successful. Now, in addition, we would like to launch this project for our own seafarers. So Uniteam Marine at the moment has over 5,000 seafarers in our own books, and these people would train on this particular tool that we would develop. In addition, we've been successful with other games, other initiatives, and we would see ourselves as a marketing together with the successful company to make this game successful for other companies as well. So there's a lot we like to bring to the table. We have experts available that can help with the development. Myself, I would get involved from a production side. So yes, we stand ready to give this all the attention that it needs.
I guess it's really all hands on deck then.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Okay, so that's certainly good news to whoever that's watching this right now and intending to put in a proposal. So maybe your solution could be game developers.
That's my dream job you describe, Ning. So that is that's what we all want. Gaming into real time.
Great. I'll just recap some of your wish list.
Yes.
So you're looking for a solution that is fun, so that when people they learn, right? They internalize the knowledge and it becomes part of them because it's fun. So that's how they retain the information much better.
Absolutely.
And you want to be able to increase the capacity for training, so you don't want to confine people to just, maybe 4 packs in a simulator, or even in a classroom that has capacity of even 100 is a cap, right? So you definitely want to reach out to the masses quickly, effectively, fun. You want to have some kind of flexibility in the content.
Yes. So let's call it customizable. So let's say we have a new type of ship owner with a complete new set of procedures. We should be able to enter these new scenarios into this solution flawlessly. So it becomes a multi-environment tool. So in addition, the backend data is important for us. So indeed, where we have learning analytics, where we can see how people perform. Global leaderboard is important for us. Because to give you an example, we would like to incentivize the top 3 players. We would single them out for extra reward or a special bonus, because we want this thing to come alive in our team of 5,000 seafarers. We want people to say, hey, this guy is the top player. Well, I think I can do better. And this is how you create indeed that engagement, that incredible excitement that exists around serious games.
So that will be part of your appraisal as well, for their appraisal. Yes. Okay. All right. Well, we've come to the end of this session. Thank you so much, Paul, for spending time.
Most welcome.
Yeah, unfortunately, we're unable to finish all the questions. I'll just I'll copy them and I'll have them sent over to you, and then we'll recap again and share the information.
Yes. I would like to thank all of you for your attention and the team of Pier 71 for making this happen. And I look forward to your questions, and I look forward to working with one of you. Absolutely. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you so much. All right, I hope to see you soon again.
Thank you very much.
In person, right? Bye.
That would be nice. Bye-bye.
Bye. All right, so that's the end for the first session. We will move on to the second session. We have with us Okazumi-san from ONE. Can we have him online? Hello.
Hello.
All right. Before we begin this session properly, I just want to tell the audience that in case you join us mid-session, don't worry, because we will be posting the recording on Facebook and on other platforms at the end of the event, so you can go back and watch them again. Now, welcome to our second session for the day, and it's with ONE and SCS actually. But today we have Okazumi-san from ONE, and he is the manager in the technical department. So I'd like to briefly introduce SCS, and that's Symphony Creative Solutions. They are the innovation arm of Ocean Network Express, supporting the large liner in its digital transformation journey. And for the third year running, SCS is on its quest to introduce more exciting startups to ONE to support their digital transformation. And they are just as eager to hear from the brilliant tech startups participating in Business Mapper Challenge. That's what SCS asked me to tell you. They are very eager to meet some of you in person. So yeah. All right. So Okazumi-san, could you perhaps introduce a little bit about yourself, what you do, what's interesting about the things that you've been working on lately? I'm sure our audience are interested to know that too.
Yes. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Tetsuya Okazumi from Ocean Network Express and the technical department. So I'm in charge mainly for the technical part of the new building projects. So, and I'm in charge mainly for the machinery and electric systems. So, but I have no idea about the new technology so far. So I'm very interested to hear your proposals. Yes. Okay, so
I forgot to mention that the topic for the second session is actually virtual walkthroughs for vessels. Now that's really interesting. When I first read that title, I was wondering, what do you mean by virtual walkthroughs for vessels? So apparently it's because they want to create a virtual environment of all the vessels, and for very important reasons. And it's because ONE's also does repair and maintenance work for vessels, right?
Actually, no.
Yeah, okay, so correct me then. So how does the repair and maintenance work comes in?
Yeah, because we are just a charter of the vessel at this moment.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. And the maintenance work and repair work is responsible for owners and the ship management companies. So basically, we have no responsible for maintenance work. But for keeping our service quality higher, we don't need to stop the vessels. So we are cooperating with ship owners and operators for its maintenance works. So maintenance work is important for us also.
Sorry, how do you work with the maintenance companies?
Yeah, so because maintenance work relates to the vessel's schedule, and the schedule is essential for us to keep our service higher quality. So we are discussing with ship owners and ship's management company closely about the repair work and maintenance work. So responsible is for owners and the ship management company, but as an operator, we have also need to understand what is doing on vessel.
All right, then perhaps you can share with us what kind of repair and maintenance work are usually involved in for vessels, like, what kind, how often, who's involved and stuff like that?
Yeah. So mainly the maintenance work. If something happens, the vessel reports to ONE and the ship's owners about these troubles and inform how long it takes for repairing. ONE must judge the vessel need to be stopped for completion of the repair work, or we need to hire other vessels. So we need to decide as soon as possible to minimize the impact on our schedule. So we need to closely discuss with ships owners and management companies and the vessels.
I see. So that is when something happens ad hoc, right? If something happens. But
Yeah.
what about maintenance work? Like that should be routine?
Yes, that maintenance work is scheduled by ships management companies. But the point is different from ships management companies and ships operator, ONE, because ships management company don't like to stop the vessels mainly. But from the ONE point of view, the cargo damages is one of the essential parts. So we are checking that to cause some damage to the cargo. So the point is different. So we sometimes carry out our inspection on board, separate from ship's owner's one.
Okay. So can you tell me briefly what kind of challenges that you face, or rather the company face, or if anyone, or if more than ONE faces, when it comes to repair and maintenance work, such that
Yes.
it prompts you all to actually put up this problem statement?
Yes. So we have three challenges at this moment. So first one is it takes longer time to communicate via email to understand what has happened on board actually, precisely. Yeah, because captain tried to explain that issues happened on board with photos and drawings, but sometimes the photos angle is bad and some attachment drawing is unclear, and the ship operator is not trained well. So there are sometimes misunderstandings each other's. So this is a first point. So it takes a long time to understand what is happening. And the second point is our periodical inspection cannot catch the current conditions. So it means we are trying to carry out inspection as much as possible, but we operate over 200 vessels and a limited number of inspectors are there. So in the longest case, the inspection will be 2 years intervals. So it means after our inspections, the vessel's condition will change, and we cannot catch the actual condition now. So that is the second point. And the third one is limited time for inspection in port. During port stay, vessels are very busy, like receiving the food and taking bunkers and etc. And so within limited time, inspection must be carried out and the interview also carried out. So if the port stay is very short time, inspection cannot be carried out for all areas. It means some area cannot be checked by ourselves. So that is a third point.
Okay. So you mentioned 3 challenges, right? So firstly, yes, it's because there's communication problem. I mean, it's also because communication is being done by emails, although sometimes you attach photographs or drawings of the vessels, but the quality can be bad, so you can't really see exactly where or how bad the situation is. Am I right?
Yes, yes.
So if when you say that the time is long, can you give me an average of how long does it get before someone actually fully understands? So we know the, I guess, what's the worst case scenario, and then so we know how much to bring it down, how much to improve.
Yeah, in worst case, ship must go to dry dock, so it takes over 1 week or 2 weeks. But normally, normal engine trouble, it takes some hours, like 3 or 4 hours stoppage.
Okay, so it can take up to a week to actually pinpoint what problem the vessel is facing. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
Okay, and so for you, what would be the ideal improvement? So let's say from a week to how much? How many days?
Not so often.
Okay.
1 week, once one per week, like that. Among our fleet.
Okay. Another thing is there is limit for routine inspection. Did you say that it takes up to 2 years to complete inspection?
No. The inspection intervals.
Intervals.
Yeah, within 2 years, we in our internal policy, we will carry out our inspection. But the longest cases will be the 2 years intervals.
It's because there's a lack of manpower in the form of inspectors, right? So then you can only do routine inspections every 2 years, sometimes.
Yes.
And that is not acceptable.
Yeah.
Okay.
That cannot catch current condition well.
Right. And the third one is definitely because for vessels that stay in ports, the time is very limited because the longer they stay, the less things they can do, right? Because they're meant to travel. And with that limited time, you're unable to, or rather the crew is unable to do inspection properly.
Yeah, sometimes.
Okay, all right. So now that we understand the challenges, so I want to ask, what's being done currently? How is inspection work being done then? So is it via manuals?
For inspection, there are some report format, but the inspection point is depend on the inspectors. Of course, all inspectors have enough experience to check, but the report is not formatted yet completely. All
right. So I guess what I'm asking is like, so let's have a scenario where somewhere in the engine room, one of the engines is spoiled, right? Then so O&E will be notified, and then you want to know exactly where the problem is, what's happened to it. So what would the inspectors, or how do you guys communicate? Is it like, is there like a plan for the ship, and then you point out and say, that's where the problem is?
Yes. When inspector found something, inspector also informed to the chief engineers, and also they make the report and report to ship owners and ONE also. So we will share what is the problem among the vessel and ship owners and ONE, and ask them to report when rectified.
Okay, so for the inspections, right? The inspectors go down and they visualize, right? They see what's happening. Do they have to churn out? They have to churn out reports, right?
Yes.
Okay, so I guess that answers someone's question, because Kapil asked if inspections are all visuals or if there is something more. I guess the inspectors have to really go down and see and then churn out report.
Yes.
At the end of the day. Yeah. And Ralph is asking, what would you like to report between vessel inspections?
Sorry, second question is not clear for me.
Yeah, actually, Ralph, I think you might have to explain or elaborate the question a little bit more. What would you like to report between vessel inspections? Can you give me an example, Ralph? And we'll come back to you afterwards.
Yes. So if during the inspection, if the inspector found some oil leakage, then inspector pointed out, and take photo and make report and send it to the both companies, owner and ONE. And after rectified by ship's members, then ship's member take photos after rectified and report to both ONE and ship's owners. And then that issue is closed.
Right. Okay, now I understand from the problem statement that one of the, you mentioned the 3 challenges, and it's really complex to communicate all these challenges because currently what's happening is, so you can see that communication has to happen between different parties who are not always in the same room together when things happen, correct? Like you may not be meeting one another in the same place to discuss. And so how you would know that you're talking about the same thing is you pull out 2D plans of the vessel so that you can at least identify which part of the vessel is the problem lying. Correct? Correct me if I'm wrong.
At this moment, yes, we use drawings.
Yeah.
For communication. Yes.
Yeah. So the drawings, and for the drawings for one vessel, there are a lot, like whole stack of them, and it's really hard to retrieve information from this PDF drawings, right?
Yes.
And it complicates the discussion. So sometimes you may be pointing to this part, but then other people may be understanding it wrongly and understand it as another part. So that's where there is a long delay because of this miscommunication and inaccuracies in the process. So that's why you want something, or at least only want something that would enable communication to take place a lot easier. So you're thinking of, if I may borrow an example from how people view properties these days, especially with COVID-19, right? Because in Singapore, you cannot go and view houses anymore, even if you're interested to buy one. So what they do is they take you on a virtual tour of the house. So that is as if you're walking through the doors, looking at the toilets, looking at the bedrooms and stuff like that. So you're immersed in this 3D or virtual and very realistic environment where you understand it very clearly, you see the things that you want to see, and before you put down your down payment, right? So that is an analogy, and if I am correct, is that what ONE is looking at as well?
Yes, correct, yes.
Yeah, okay. So the next question is then, so what kind of features would you like to have in this solution?
Yes, so as explained, current condition is the most important for us. So,
sorry, what condition is that?
Current condition, current
condition. Okay.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
So the system shall be easy to capture the data because condition must be updated by crew or our inspectors. So that means the system must be very easy to use. So that is what we expect.
Okay. So besides having that kind of walkthrough, the system must also allow note-taking in a way, right? So that you're able to take down notes of the current condition, have it dated, and it will be used by crew members. So those are the users primarily.
Sorry, I can't hear you.
So you're saying that it would be the crews who will be using this tool, right? Because they would,
yes,
or rather
yes,
the inspectors as well, because they have to take note of the inspection results and all that. Now, someone's asking, is there a standardized inspection method or is there a checklist?
Not. Yeah, of course, we have some report format, but that's depend on which part to be focused is completely depend on the inspectors. So yeah, they check for the vessels, but the focusing point of maybe slightly different from the inspectors, among the inspectors.
All right, so I guess that's a no, but there isn't really a standardized inspection method, I guess, or there isn't really a a checklist.
Yeah, because they refer their previous report.
Uh-huh.
So, and we have some format for reporting and which part to be checked like that. So this is kind of a checklist. So they will fill the report format and taking pictures to attach. So I guess that is a kind of checklist.
Okay, so they will refer to previous reports and then follow up from there. So I guess that's why you mentioned that the new solution, whichever it is, must take note of the conditions and have it time-stamped so that they know the progress of the inspections, the outcomes, and what to do. All right, I have one last question actually. So for the startup that is successfully selected by ONE at the end of the SmartPort Challenge, so how would ONE or SCS be working with the startups? I guess what I'm asking is what kind of resources would ONE be able to put in to work with the startup after SmartPort Challenge? And I ask this question because for those finalists that are qualified, MPA is putting up to $50,000 Singapore dollars grant for prototype development, for to pilot projects, and so on and so forth.
Yeah, we consider to involve ONE inspectors and operators, and also from the owner side, the crew members and ship management company will be involved and try to install the system to one vessels and check the function and if there are some additional functions necessary or not, and feedback to the startups.
Okay, I think that's great news for the startups because what Okazumi-san has mentioned is that basically ONE is going to be able to pull together the multiple stakeholders that will be testing out this solution and providing feedback that's real time, right? So it's really going into a project once the solution is suitable or at a stage where it can be deployed or tested. So there will be a real life environment to test out the solution.
Yes.
All right, so that's my last question actually. So let me just check and see if anyone else has any questions. Actually, I think we answered them. But if you have any other questions, you can still keep them coming. Oh, okay. Someone asked, are floor plans provided for the vessel during prototype phase? I guess what he's trying to say is that if he is developing a prototype, would ONE be able to provide drawings of the vessels?
That's depend on the how to use. Yeah, of course we need. Of course the vessels drawings, the property of the ship's owners. So we need to discuss with them first. But it depends on how to use. So if we can discuss with owners and they may accept if the use is reasonable.
Okay, so I guess it's up for negotiation and depends, right? So that can be further discussed during the post-challenge phase.
Yes.
All right, so I guess that's it from me. But before we end the session, I actually want to thank, besides thanking Okazumi-san for spending time with us today, I want to let all of you know that if you're interested to find out more about the SmartPort Challenge and any of the 17 innovation opportunities, please head over to our website, and that's www.pier79.sg to find out more. And we run these sessions every Thursday, 4 p.m. till 5 p.m., where we invite more corporates to come in and share what they're looking for exactly when they put up these innovation opportunities. So if you want to join us next week, please sign up for the session. Right, it's appearing on the screen right now. Do register for the events. Okay. All right. For all the questions that were unanswered from the previous section, we will try to get back to you after this. All right. Thank you so much, guys. I'll see you again next week at 4 p.m. Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.